After the extinction of large mammals in Africa, many ecological niches were vacant, and ostriches, which already had an advantage with their long necks to access high vegetation, quickly replaced giraffes. The fact that they have the same colors is probably a coincidence. These animals move in small groups and feed on leaves and nuts they find high in trees. They have no teeth, so they swallow everything without chewing and eat stones to facilitate digestion in the stomach. By becoming so large, the giraffes have lost the speed of their ancestors. Here is an animal that seems to have been anticipated for a long time. Like the previous birds that became quadrupeds to occupy the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction of megafauna, these griffins, descendants of Eurasian eagles, have become completely terrestrial animals. Capable of running at over 70 kilometers per hour, it has maintained its carnivorous diet but only preys on animals much smaller than itself. Without teeth, it eats its prey without chewing, and although they live in herds, each hunts small animals individually without seeking to coordinate to pursue larger prey. Apart from their diet, these animals resemble feathered horses, showing particular intelligence with a complex hierarchy within the clan. This species of griffin is more carnivorous than the previous one, capable of hunting prey its own size, or even larger. Like the previous species, it also lacks teeth, but its beak has spikes that serve the same function. These are fast and solitary animals, with females being slightly larger than males. After mating, the pair stays together while the female is gravid, but once the egg is laid, it's the male's responsibility to protect the offspring while the female returns to her solitary life. When the egg hatches, the chick must fend for itself without any parental support, and mortality is very high during this period. But once adults, these animals are apex predators. Flamingos have strangely retained their ecological niche as freshwater filter feeders, but their appearance has changed considerably. To eat, flamingos used to have to hold their heads upside down, making them very vulnerable to predator attacks. However, they have now grown so large that even though they still feed by appending their heads, no predator dares to attack them anymore. They also have a large claw on their front legs in case of a bolder predator. They are very calm and unassuming animals, moving slowly in the shallow waters of lakes and rivers. They lay their eggs in nests made of mud in the middle of bodies of water, away from land predators. Many birds have replaced the mammalian megafauna of the Holocene, and these cranes are no exception. With large legs and a long neck, they are perfectly adapted to savannas with denser vegetation. Their plumage protects them from the thorns of acacias and blends perfectly into the bush. They can no longer fly but run very fast and can use their long claws for defense. Although herbivorous, they also eat invertebrates and eggs to supplement their diet. Megathorn is part of a long lineage of terror birds in South America. During the Holocene, they became smaller, but 5 million years later, they have become larger than ever. Their appearance resembles a mix of Megatherium and Therizinosaurus, and they likely occupied more or less the same ecological niche as large solitary omnivores using their immense claws for defense. Interestingly, their beak has disappeared, and the animal has a jaw like dinosaurs, a phenomenon known as reverse evolution. In Patagonia, even though there are savannas, winters are harsh, and Megathorn's plumage offers good protection. Dichotomous is a rather unique animal. With its immense shovel-shaped beak, it rakes the bottom of lakes and ponds in search of aquatic plants and tubers. It has lost almost all of its feathers except on its back, which are greenish in color and perfectly camouflage it when it is lying in the water. Additionally, with its brown skin color, once lying down, it resembles a small island in the middle of a lake. These animals live in small groups, like their duck ancestors, and exhibit quite aggressive behavior towards individuals outside their group. The resemblance to hippos is evident. However, hippos disappeared during the Holocene, like most large mammals, but for them, it was climate change that decimated their populations. The African continental plate, moving northward, closed the Mediterranean Sea, and the small community of Barbary macaques that lived in southern Spain saw its territory expand with the disappearance of humans, who left remnants of their civilization. The highly intelligent monkeys already understood and used certain objects made by humans, further boosting their cognitive instincts. The jacket monkey is the result of several generations of these macaques. They live in communities around a sea dried up by evaporation. They have a more carnivorous diet than other monkeys, due to the scarcity of vegetation around the salt-laden sea, a dietary habit they retained after exploring other ecosystems further south. The kunchtak is a species of kangaroo that has forsaken bipedalism. It is a herbivore that lives in mixed herds in the Australian savannas. They have a thick, dome-shaped head, which they use for defense rather than for courtship displays, as both sexes possess similar domes. They are not very large, but are rather fast and do not hesitate to strike at their predators. As marsupials, the babies are born undeveloped and finish growing in a pouch on the mother's belly. Even when fully formed, the young do not walk immediately. They spend their first months clinging to the mother's back. Weastrel is a small, agile predatory animal that can climb trees or even steep rocky slopes. It is comfortable in a wide variety of ecosystems. Its ancestors were small carnivores such as weasels or martens, and they occupy practically the same ecological niche millions of years later. They can stand on their hind legs to make large jumps or impress their adversaries during mating displays. They have specialized in hunting flying birds, hence the need for frequent jumps. The broander is an antelope that has adapted to aquatic environments in the savanna. It's not truly amphibious, but spends a lot of time near water, allowing it to cool down and escape predators quickly. Two small horns remain on its head, vestiges of the gazelles they once were. This new way of life has caused them to lose their fur and hooves. The horns likely serve to externalize excess keratin created by metabolism, but they are destined to disappear over time. The love mantis is so named because, unlike other mantises, it forms a lifelong bond with its mate. They don't particularly care for their offspring but remain together to hunt and protect each other. At night, the two mantises rub their wings, which no longer allow them to fly, to produce a distinctive sound. They sing together side by side. The sound they emit allows them to assess their environment much like a sonar. The mountain chameleon is a very strange creature indeed. The chameleon itself is quite large and entirely terrestrial, feeding on vegetation. However, its body cavity is filled with a colony of termites with which it lives in symbiosis. There are many holes in its skin to allow for good ventilation, but the colony cannot expand beyond the limited space within the chameleon's body. The animal moves quite slowly, allowing the termites time to come and go to feed the colony. If the host is attacked by a predator, it's the termites that go to war to defend the chameleon. This species of chameleon has also left the trees. With climate changes, the forests have shifted and left Madagascar. The chameleons that remained on the island either adapted to terrestrial life or went extinct. Cameliosaurus has opted for bipedalism to reach plants higher up than other chameleon species. However, it struggles to maintain its balance with its large head and short arms. Many chameleon species have evolved towards gigantism following the desertification of certain African forests, and querubur is a good example. This large animal fears no predators, thanks to its size and thick-scaled skin. Despite this, it has retained the same diet and feeds on small animals, relying on sensing vibrations from its prey on the ground at night. It lies flat, pressing its chin into the sand, waiting for the slightest vibration. At night, it seeks refuge from the heat in the shade of rocks or vegetation. Its eyes remain independent like those of its ancestors, and its tongue is still capable of projecting forward, useful for catching prey faster than itself. However, its colors no longer reflect its mood. The Neotriceratops is another species closely related to the aforementioned querubur. However, this one has developed horns on its head, giving it the appearance of Mesozoic ceratopsians. These horns are not used for combat as they are too fragile, only males possess them, and they serve merely as an indicator of the individual's good health. These animals live in small herds and have the same diet as the querubur. Both species coexist in the same environment, but the Neotriceratops is more active during the day. The parabolizard has a truly perplexing appearance. Descended from frilled lizards, it has retained this characteristic to form a large parabola all around its head. This enables it to hear sounds that are inaudible to the entire animal kingdom and over very long distances. These are solitary animals with a widely dispersed population. In order to communicate discreetly without attracting the attention of potential predators, they emit sound waves that are nearly inaudible to any form of life not equipped like the parabolizard. To be able to eat its food on the ground, it has a long tongue because its parabola prevents it from lowering its head. To drink water, it condenses on the walls of the parabola, and the skin absorbs the moisture. Burrel, a species related to turtles, has adapted to underground life. Its body has elongated and the shell has slightly receded. A shell like those turtles had during the Holocene would have been too cumbersome to navigate underground. The front legs, projected forward, have large claws to dig a network of tunnels. It is an animal that lives in small communities, feeding on plant roots and tubers from below. There is no specific hierarchy within the burrel colony, nor is there any education for the young. Proximity to the adults is enough for them to understand how to dig and feed. They can be violent towards foreign colonies if a tunnel encroaches upon one from a neighboring colony. Most crocodiles have retained their amphibious lifestyle adopted millions of years ago, but the leopard crocodile has left the water to pursue more terrestrial prey. Its legs have elongated, its jaws have shortened, and its bite force has decreased. It can run at almost 100 kilometers per hour, capable of catching even the fastest prey. At the end of its tail, it has spines that it uses to injure prey it struggles to bring down, as it can target animals much larger than itself. To eat in peace, it hoists its catch up into trees, similar to how leopards behave. The giant big bull is the largest corvid that has ever existed. It has undergone some physiological adaptations to reach this size, such as the widening of its legs to support its weight and the reduction of its wings, which no longer allow it to fly. The animal's head is very large to accommodate a huge beak, as it is a scavenger, and this beak allows it to crush even the strongest bones and shells. It is the cleaner of the deserts, with an extremely powerful sense of smell capable of detecting carrion hundreds of kilometers away. It is a rather slow animal, but its imposing size scares away all other scavengers, leaving it free to eat undisturbed. The ball hedgehog, as its name suggests, is a hedgehog shaped like a ball. the spines of its ancestors have gathered to form keratin scales, offering an impassable protection against both small and large threats. Small threats cannot slip between the scales, and the scales are too strong for larger threats. However, the animal cannot retract into its shell like turtles do. When faced with persistent predators, the ball hedgehog can quickly roll away to escape. It is an omnivorous animal that eats both leaves and invertebrates. The hermit lab crab is a hermit crab with a very dense, and therefore heavy, shell. It lodges itself in cavities formed in pieces of wood, which float to balance the crab's inertia in the water. It lives in symbiosis with a marine sponge that grows on the pieces of wood fallen into the sea, with each hermit lab crab having its own sponge. The crab helps disperse the sponge, and the sponge protects the crab from potential predators as it is poisonous. The crab mainly feeds on its own wooden home and often has to change it, bringing its sponge along to its new abode. The charismatic barber is a mantis shrimp specialized in cleaning the seas. One of its claws has transformed into a sort of scissors to cut plants or any form of parasites, while the other has become a comb to scrape and sort what it can eat or not. It has distinctive colors easily recognizable for other animals who seek it out specifically to get cleaned. It is an animal that is rarely attacked for this reason, as it is very useful in helping large animals get rid of a parasitic plant growing on the skin of slow-swimming animals. Here is the largest crustacean of all time for now. Descended from a particular family of crabs, the Rhininidae, this crab has become gigantic and is equally at home in the water as it is on land. To camouflage itself, a variety of plants grow on its back. This is possible due to its slow movements. It is a solitary animal, practically invisible in the vegetation of tropical islands. With its huge claws, it can attack even the strongest corals to feed, and it also eats various small invertebrates and marine algae. They continue to grow throughout their lives, with some individuals reaching over 10 meters in length. The heavier they become, the less they venture out of the water due to their weight. Descended from puffins, equally at ease in the water as in the sky, the lemurem has made its choice and remained in the water. It can still awkwardly haul itself onto the beach to lay eggs or bask in the sun, but this remains very occasional. It is a placid animal found in areas where aquatic plants are abundant, which constitute its main food source, in addition to serving as hiding spots to protect itself from predators. Its beak has become flatter, its wings have atrophied, and its legs are projected backward. Instead of resembling penguins, themselves adapted to marine life, they resemble more the manatees in both appearance and behavior. Nudibranchs are small, colorful marine gastropods, but 5 million years later, some have become giants. The eared worm, which is not a worm, has grown larger to prey on bigger prey. It has developed a huge mouth filled with teeth, and its ears allow it to maneuver effectively between corals and rocks. Despite its bright color, it is a feared animal that blends in perfectly with the colorful reefs. Its affiliation with nudibranchs is confirmed by the presence of external gills at the rear of its body. With most large abyssal cetaceans extinct, an ecological niche was left vacant, and it was filled by hammerhead sharks. These animals were already well equipped to detect prey hidden under the sand, a skill that served them well in descending into the deep sea. To prey on larger animals like giant squids, the sharkalot itself has become gigantic, measuring over 15 meters long. Its dark coloration makes it invisible despite its size. Unlike cetaceans, it does not need to surface to breathe, so it is constantly on the lookout for new prey. The formidable killer whales still roam the oceans in 5 million years, displacing large sharks from their ecological niche. Similar to the previous shark, and aided by its electromagnetic capabilities, the huge blind shark has forsaken a pelagic life to remain in the deep sea, a habitat where sight is no longer necessary. Its eyes still exist, but are tiny, almost vestigial. It preys on smaller animals that do not interest the few remaining cetaceans. Despite this, it is large in size, as having a big mouth maximizes the chances of catching prey when sight is not relied upon. In the oceans, large schools of fish have always existed, serving as a food source for a diverse marine fauna. In 5 million years, among these, it is the Vardines that play this role. These are small pelagic fish that feed on phytoplankton, marine plant microorganisms. They are highly prolific to cope with the numerous predators that hunt them, but that is not their only survival strategy. On their backs, they have a small stinging fin, making their capture more challenging compared to some other fish that live in schools. The sea torch is a scorpion fish living in deep reefs at around 100 meters deep. It preys on other fish and crustaceans, using a rather unique technique. Above its head, it has a sort of powerful lamp that blinds its prey while it stalks. However, this technique also puts it in danger as the light could attract predators. Once the prey is swallowed, the sea torch rushes into the corals or rocks to hide. It is a large fish, but the corals in the deep waters at this time are gigantic. Surprisingly, marine turtles, once threatened with extinction, survived the 6th extinction event. The large leatherback turtles gave birth to immense creatures that became entirely dependent on marine environments. Their shell was absorbed to make way for very thick skin and a more streamlined body. This physiology allows them to achieve great speed despite their large size. No longer returning to the beaches, these turtles lay their eggs in algae floating on the surface. The shell is very thick, and no bird or other egg-eating predator of that time is capable of breaking it.